Welcome to part 2 of Maruti Zen Carburetor service. The links to part 1 and part 3 videos along with the spares required to service the carburetor are listed in the description. So hello and welcome to Bo's Garage. Let's get into the video.
So let us proceed to dismantle the carburetor first. Before that, few info regarding the carburetor itself. This is a dual barrel downdraft type carburetor, originally designed by Mikuni Japan, but in India it is built by UCAL Fuel Systems in association with Mikuni. So you can see that UCAL Mikuni embossings are there on the body of this particular carburetor. Now this carburetor has a primary circuit and a secondary circuit. The accelerator cable is connected to the primary circuit and the secondary circuit is vacuum operated. And the secondary circuit operates only during high speed, high load condition. For this reason, majority of the cars which are not driven at high speeds, the secondary circuit might get stuck. That butterfly valve might get stuck. So before to dismantle, it is better to check the proper operation of the secondary circuit. If it is not operating properly or if you feel that it is stuck, then you need to dismantle the butterfly valves also completely and get it serviced. So before to dismantle the carburetor, there are few parts which you need to source in advance. This is the float chamber of this carburetor and there is a rubber gasket which is called the float chamber gasket, and it is available as a kit like this with all the screws and stuff. And then there is an insulating gasket between the butterfly valves and the carburetor main body. The function of this insulating gasket is to ensure that the heat from the engine is not transferred to the carburetor and to avoid vaporization of fuel. And this insulating gasket, it is always better to use only Maruti genuine ones. So this area is the acceleration pump circuit of the carburetor. In some cases you might feel that when you push the throttle, the car gives a missing or something. So normally what happens is there is a rubber diaphragm inside this acceleration pump circuit. So this particular rubber diaphragm gets dried up over a period of time and it will not effectively pump the fuel to the carburetor. So it's always better to have a spare in hand, and whenever you service the carburetor, it is strongly advised to replace those diaphragms. So this one is available as a pump body gasket kit with all the screws and springs, everything, and make sure that you buy a Maruti genuine part for this one. Okay, so let's dismantle it now. So now we have removed all the screws for the float chamber. We have removed the vacuum mechanism for the choke. And now we need to remove that linkage for the choke. And then we can lift the top half. And this is the float chamber gasket. That is carburetor float. That's a butterfly valve for the choke. So here inside the float chamber, next to the float chamber, you can see the primary jet and the secondary jet, and this is the primary circuit and the secondary circuit. And as I said before, the secondary circuit is operating only during high speed, high load condition. Only at that time, due to the vacuum operation, it will send excess fuel to the machine or the engine. In this particular location, there is a pump, weight and a ball. So whenever you dismantle, make sure that you don't lose the weight and the ball. And this serves an important function like a non-return valve. Note the location, and whenever you assemble it back, assemble the carburetor back, make sure to put the ball and the weight at the right position. So now let's clean the primary jet and the secondary jet. Nowadays there are plenty of carburetor cleaners available in the market. plenty of variety of brands. You can use any one. Like there are well-known brands like 3M, Worth, and then there are other brands like what we are using. So these are all available on Amazon and you can purchase them. It's better to have them in hand because that will loosen up all the dirt and grime accumulated inside the carburetor. So let's clean all the jets now, and whenever you are spraying it inside, keep a safe distance because this kind of cleaning chemicals can cause eye irritation or skin irritation. So just keep a safe distance from the spraying area. So we don't see any blockage there, but just to double check, we will just remove the jets and check. This is the primary jet and we don't see any blockage or anything over there. Now we will remove the secondary jet. So this is the primary and secondary jet. The primary one is 96.3 size and the secondary is 145. When you reinstall it back, make sure that you don't mix up the positions. So install the right one at the right place. It's clear? Clear. Once you have cleaned the jets and everything, make sure to clean the float chamber and the primary and secondary circuit area. Wipe off with a clean cloth, and after you wipe off, make sure that there are no strands or anything from the cloth left behind inside the carburetor. So let's install back the jets. Secondary jet 145. So clean all the passages wherever possible. So check thoroughly all the passages and spray the carburetor cleaner there. So now we can check the primary and secondary butterfly valves. If you remove those two screws over there, then we can separate those portion and thoroughly inspect those area. Before you dismantle this location, make sure that you have the insulator gasket spare in your hand, because for sure when you remove it will get damaged. So make sure you have it in spare. Remove that linkage from the pump circuit and make sure that whenever you dismantle the hoses, note the location so that you will be able to reconnect it properly. So remove the leftover gasket material and clean the surface properly. Let's remove the insulator as well. Now before you dismantle the carburetor from the car, just start the car and check from the shaft of these butterfly valves to see if there is any fuel leakage or fuel seepage, because normally there should be a seal or an o-ring, and due to aging, once this seal or o-ring is damaged, you can see fuel seeping out from the tip of the shaft. So if you had seen such kind of issue when the vehicle is running, make sure to dismantle these butterfly valves as well and replace the seals. Now we have cleaned the surface properly, and you can use the same carburetor cleaner itself to dissolve the remains of the gasket and use a sharp scraper to clean the surface. But whenever you are using a scraper, make sure not to damage this mating surface, because once there is some deep scratch marks on the mating surface, it may not seal properly. So be very careful when you use the sharp scraper. So now these three surfaces are clean properly. Now let us clean all the pots and the jets once again to ensure that there is no remains of the gasket trapped anywhere, and just check overall for any abnormalities. So once you clean everything with the carburetor cleaner, just give it some time so that all this cleaning agent will evaporate away. So now before we assemble, as I told you before, we need to check the acceleration pump circuit. So now we will dismantle it and we will show you the rubber diaphragms inside, and we will replace the same as well. So this is the acceleration pump diaphragm, as well as there is a spring. So if there is any damage to this diaphragm, or if it has got dried up due to aging, whenever you try to press the accelerator pedal, you will feel like there is a dip. The car doesn't accelerate suddenly. First it gives you a dip and then it goes. Normally this complaint is caused due to a damaged or old diaphragm, and use only Maruti genuine diaphragm. You will get, still it is available and we can replace it. There was a small mistake before. Actually this pump circuit diaphragm kit is for the Maruti 800. We can use the same kit, that same diaphragm in a Maruti Zen, but for Zen there is a separate kit because there is an additional diaphragm also inside the carburetor. So we will share with you the right part number in the description. ഇവിടെ സ്പ്രിങ് വരും. So this is the brand new insulator, Maruti genuine part. So we'll install it and then we can assemble the parts back. Make sure that all the holes are aligned properly, and this particular insulator gasket has orientation, and just check all the holes on both parts match with the holes on the insulator gasket. Once you position the bottom portion, just reconnect back the linkage of the acceleration pump circuit. Before you completely tighten these two screws, make sure that the other 4 holes are properly aligned. If you don't check it now, you will find it out only when you put it back on the engine, and then you will have to come back and dismantle it again. So make sure that all the 4 holes are aligned properly. So now we have put the insulator gasket, we have tightened the bottom portion to the top portion. Just re-verify once again that the holes are aligned. So earlier we had removed that spring. Now we have reconnected back the spring, and now we can install back the float chamber gasket. Before to install the float chamber gasket and the top half, make sure to install back the pump weight and the ball. So in this video we are using the old float chamber gasket itself because that one is still in good condition. There is no requirement for replacement. So the top half also we have cleaned properly, and make sure to check the operation of the float as well as the needle valve. Also check the choke butterfly valve. Just make sure that it is operating properly and there is no it's not getting stuck anywhere in between. And now this what you see is a return line, and there is an o-ring. Just thoroughly inspect the o-ring as well, and if there is, you can see that if it is brittled or dried up, make sure to replace that o-ring as well. That is also available with the float chamber gasket kit. So now we can put back the linkage for the choke lever. We had removed it before. The longest bolt is in this position, and the remaining bolts are all the same size. So we made a mistake, we forgot to connect this vacuum mechanism here, so we'll just connect it back. So now we have put all the bolts and just normal tightening, and now we can tighten the following sequence. This one is a vacuum mechanism for AC idle up, or we call it the AC idle up actuator. So let's connect it back. So let us connect back these two actuators as well, which we removed before. So now we have completed installing all the vacuum actuators onto the carburetor. Now we'll explain to you one by one the function of each of these vacuum mechanisms. We have 4 actuators on this carburetor. This one is an idle up system. This is for the air conditioning. So whenever you turn on the air conditioning, this particular vacuum chamber pulls the throttle linkage so that the idle RPM will be increased a bit. Say the normal RPM is 900. When you operate the air conditioning, it will become 1000. The linkage of this AC idle up system is connected to the primary circuit. So whenever you turn on the AC, this one will create a vacuum and pull the throttle. This one, they call it the depression chamber. This is the one which is connected to the secondary circuit. And whenever you are going at high speeds or there is high load on the engine that you press the accelerator hard, then the increased vacuum or the increased suction from the engine will cause this depression chamber to pull the secondary circuit linkage. This vacuum mechanism is for the hot restart system. For example, you start the car when the engine is hot. Even without pressing the accelerator pedal, the air fuel mixture tends to be rich. This can cause some startup issues. So to avoid this, hot restart system is provided and it is connected to the primary throttle valve. And the vacuum mechanism ensures that when the engine is hot, it will slightly open the primary throttle valve so that the air fuel mixture will be leaner and it will allow for easy restart of the engine. This vacuum actuator is for the choke mechanism. They haven't clearly described about it in the manual. For example, whenever you do a cold start, you always have the choke pulled completely and you will drive the car for like few minutes with the choke operated, because as you know, all carburetor cars always have a missing during cold start. So this vacuum mechanism, what it does is when you rev the engine, due to the vacuum created, this will slightly release the choke mechanism, not fully, only slightly, to ensure that you can drive it properly. Then you need to manually push back the choke lever. And this you see here is a fuel cutoff solenoid. So this is just when you turn off the ignition switch, it ensures that the solenoid valves close and cuts off the fuel supply to the carburetor. Now we can reassemble it back on the car and then tune the carburetor so as to get optimum performance and fuel efficiency.